Hi everyone. So I haven't actually got videos for these cards, but I thought I'd still share them with you, and I thought I'd make this one of the Christmas card part of the series, just so that you can still see, you know, I'm going to go through what I did on these. It was just some of those cards where I was just making them because I was bored one day. So I made these quite a few months ago, so except these two. So the first one is from a stamp set of Stampin' Ups, and in fact, let me start. Hi, me again. So this card is the Stampin' Up, made with Stampin' Up At Home With You dies, and I think it's called Sweet Home. No, At Home, polymer stamps and the coordinating dies. And this door does actually cut open if you use the extra die. In the end I closed it, so I was having issues this day, so never mind. So what I did was I inked and stamped, embossed this background piece, which is actually a smoky slate kind of colour. And then I used some red and a brown distress ink over the top. It was a while since I'd done this, so I didn't actually take note of it, but I just thought I'd show you what I'd done. I stamped and white embossed all these different pieces, and then watercoloured them, and then used some glossy accents on the little berries. And then just played around. I've got a green piece of card down here to look like the step sort of thing, and then obviously this is the wall in the background. And then I just decorated the inside. This is one of the stamps from, it's not from that stamp set, I think it's from a Avery Elle stamp set. And there's even like a little lantern and all this sort of thing, so it's very cute. And it turned out alright, but I didn't actually make a video on it. So I thought I'd show you that with you. So there's an idea, make a sort of scene type thing depending on your stamps and dies. Then these three, I loved doing this actually because it was really easy. Like seriously, very, very simple to do. So these stamps are from ages ago, but these are from a House Mouse stamp set. Can't for the life of me remember again what it's called, but House Mouse. And it might be like Cozy and Warm or something. Excuse me. And what I did was I started with 3 pieces of cardstock exactly the same size in 3 different colours. So I think this is Sweet Sugar Plum, Blushing Bride maybe, and Pear Pizzazz, I think. Stampin' Up cardstock. And then this was the Very Vanilla and Chocolate Chip cardstock. So like I say, I started with 3 of the exact same size pieces of card. I then used a my stamp positioning tool. Let me just grab it, so this thing, and I was able to put each piece of card in there and stamp the exact same image in the same place on the cardstock, and that way you get them in exactly the same place so that when you go to then cut the pieces out or cut them down, you know that when you line them up they'll be the same. If they're not exactly the same, there is a way around it. So if they are slightly, you know, like I had one, I think it was this one, maybe even this one, that was slightly, you know, one bit was slightly sticking up higher. Easy way to fix it, don't worry about it. But as a basic, just sort of try and start with the same size piece of cardstock. And then once you've stamped them, I just, because this was, let's see what measurement this is. It doesn't really matter what size it is, to be honest, because I may have actually cut this down again. So this in the end is 4 3/4. But I think what I'd done was I just measured across here, and if it doesn't go equally, then just think of a number that you can come in from each side. So what was this then? This would have been 1 and obviously I think I've cut these down as well afterwards, so it might have been like 1.5 or 1 3/4 from each side, and just cut the cardstock down so that you've got the same size panels, if that makes sense. You can cut them equally. If you start with a piece of card that you know is, say, 6 inches wide, you can go you know, 2 inches and 4 inches, and it'll evenly cut them out. But because that wasn't how I was going, that's why there's 3 different size cards here, I just kind of ran with it. So to stick them then together, to line them up, I just used some copy paper on the back of this, and again, as long as they can fit on there, it doesn't matter how big the copy paper is. Again, you can cut them down afterwards. This one, excuse me, I think what I did as well is I actually found, I just kind of messed around with it and then found, like, this is a normal A2 size card, this one's slightly smaller, you know, of ones that I had. I think this one I just made into a square card because of the size of this, so I just kind of played around with it. This one I just corner rounded it and cut it so that it would fit that section there. This one I used a stitched rectangle die just to neaten the edges up, and this one I cut down a bit so that it would fit as evenly in that cream vanilla piece. So it's not, you know, it doesn't matter how your cards turn out, you know, like what size they are. They can be the same size, but mine, it just didn't work that way. And I actually like the fact that there's 3 different size cards, and yet I stamped the exact same image 3 times to start with on the same size piece of cardstock. So I just kind of changed it up a bit. And honestly, lining them up is really easy. Even if the cardstock doesn't line up, just follow the image so that you look for main, like, points, like the edge of the bulb there, the leaves or the pine there, the edge down here of the foot, his little tail, on this side it could be his mouth, again the bottom there. So just look for specific points that you could then line up as you're butting it up into that piece there to then stick it down. So if you're using liquid adhesive, even better, because you've got a little bit of wiggle room before it sets. But if you're using tape, then just look for sort of key areas that you can look for. I also used a Wink of Stella glitter pen again on the bulb, and that was the only thing that I added to the actual image. And then excuse me, obviously a sentiment, and then I used some of these faceted gem things again just to add something else to it. So there you go. So 3 very simple, very straightforward cards. If you want to see an actual video with these, I can do one so that you can see what I mean by this, but hopefully I've explained enough that you know how to sort of have a whirl at it. Give it a go. It's very, very easy. These last 2 cards, these are more recent ones. This is the Father Christmas stamp set from Stampin' Up, and they were kind of experiments. I used my Distress Oxide inks. If you guys have not used Distress Oxide, seriously, you need to get some. It's amazing. It really is the coolest stuff ever. The blending on it is amazing. Let me just show you if you don't know what it looks like. Right, so that's what that's what it looks like. They are, obviously it says oxide on there, but they are silver as opposed to black compared to the normal Distress ink. But they are like a combination of a pigment and dye ink, so they are very different, but they are very cool. And if you've ever been like, I love distress ink, but if you've ever had a distress ink moment where you can't get the colours to blend, or you'll end up with like blotchiness because of the way that the tool goes, try these. I swear you will not have any problems with it. It will blend like butter. So what I did was I actually stamped in, I think this was the Vintage Photo one, stamped in Vintage Photo all my images and heat set them with, I don't know if you can see that, heat set them with a like a glittery embossing powder. It can be clear embossing powder, it doesn't matter. Because they are pigmented, they will take a longer time to dry, which means you can emboss with them. And also because of that, if you start blending over the top, it will just blend into it, so it might not be as vivid if you're using the same colours to do that. Watercoloured him with what did I use? Oh, Gansai Tambi watercolours. Going, love them. Really, really good. And then I used some puffy paint on here, and that actually turned out better than I thought it would. Let's see if you can't really see it on there, but it's like puffy. It's very weird, but it turned out really well. And then I used some, and that's a Dovecraft one. That worked really well. There, I put some of the, it's like a pearlescent, what do you call it, like drops kind of thing. Yeah, they didn't work out so well at all. They look alright, but they're very, very pointy if you turn it sideways. They're very, very sharp, so, not sharp, but you know what I mean, like they're very pointy, so I didn't really like the way they turned out, but they're okay. They're not round like berries, which is what I was going for, but that's okay. And then I just stuck the whole panel, and I used some really strong tape because it warped with the distress. I also, when I done the edges, I then used some water with a distress sprayer, and that's what's given it this sort of distressed, blotchy, kind of messed up look. So there's that. And actually, now that I think about it, I might have a video on this. Excuse me. I can't remember if I did do a video on this one and this one. I don't think I did, so I'm going to carry on here. And then I just stuck it on some card, and used one of the other sentiments from the same stamp set. No, not the same. No, not the same stamp set. Oh, I'm losing the plot. Just says enjoy the warmth of the season. So that's him. And then on the same line, at the same time that I was doing this one, I was actually doing this one as well. So I was doing the same steps, same images, same everything, but I was using a different colour. So I used iced spruce, Distress Oxide, did the exact same thing, stamped all the images, heat embossed them with a, like a holographic-y kind of embossing powder. And this one I didn't do anything else. I didn't paint him, I didn't add anything. Excuse me. I inked around the edges, I did the distress spritzy thing, the water. I added a bit of twine on here, added it to a card base that I thought worked really well, but that was it. I didn't do anything else to it. So I think sometimes you can keep it really, really simple and it can still look really quite cool, and I'm quite chuffed with that one. This one was alright. I think these red berries are what put me off a bit, because the red's also not quite the same sort of red as this red, but I'm going to go with it anyway. But yeah, I love this one actually quite a lot nicer than the other one. There you go. So there's just some more ideas for you. Like I say, if you want to see any of the cards or the techniques in these cards, let me know in the comments below, and I will try to catch up with everything. As I'm sure you can hear, I'm not super well at the moment. But you know, time of year and all that. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.